To start our study session. I have item 8, and I am going to call that ready. I will know by Monday. Councilor Paniagua.
All right, I have item 9, and it is to adopt the City of Syracuse final proposed redistricting plan. We're supposed to hold, and we are holding this item.
Thank you. Councilor Caldwell.
Thank you, Madam President. I have item 10. This is from J.C. Smith, an in-kind donation of a scoreboard valued at $13,000 to be installed at Norwood Park, our famous Eastwood Bears Park, right? Go ahead, Julie.
Julie LaFave, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. So this is to an accepted donation, as the counselor said, for a scoreboard. Norwood does not have one. This is a relative of the Smith family who ran the Eastwood Bears for a long time. They'd like to donate this, and it would be installed by the city, installed on the building.
We taking over maintenance on that?
Yes, yes.
I will call this ready. Ready. And I have items 11 through 23. Julie, you can start with 11.
Item number 11 is a request to revise the general ordinances as it relates to fees. There's two parts. One is we'd like to introduce a new fee, and that is for ice bikes. As you may recall, we purchased ice bikes. We'd like to introduce them this fall at our rinks, both indoor and outdoor. However, we have no official fee on the books, so we would like it to be $10, which does include admission into the rink as well as the ice bike and the helmet. Any question on that portion of it?
No.
The other portion, which is the top half, if you have the letter in front of you, we did not run any of these specials during the pandemic because we were running at such a limited capacity at the ice rinks, but during the pandemic, ice rink fees had never been increased for 20 plus years, so we increased the fees during the pandemic. However, these were never changed because we weren't running them during the pandemic, so we are requesting these increases to match the already approved fees for general admission and general skate rental to match that.
Item 13.
Item 12.
12, I'm sorry. I gotta get my glasses.
Okay.
I'm ready, go ahead. Yeah, I gotta get my glasses, couldn't see.
You're on next after 12.
So, this is revised general ordinance of City of Syracuse, Chapter 17, entitled Parks, Playgrounds, and Public Grounds. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but I'm going to let Julie explain to you why we decided to do this amendment. Go ahead.
So as there is no general policy or procedure for when we get requests to name parks or name amenities within parks. For some reason this last year we've received an increase of requests to rename either portions of parks or parks themselves. If you remember, a few months ago we had such a request. We want to formalize the process, so this is adopting a formalized process that we borrowed a model from Buffalo. Corp Counsel assisted in writing the policy, and it's introduced by Councilor Caldwell. But this would formalize the process, giving there's a public forum aspect of it, council weighing in on it. It's a lengthy, spelled out process.
Go ahead.
So I have a question, if I
Sure.
could. I commend you for doing that, because obviously there was some vagary with all of that. And I've had a lot of constituent calls saying, how can that park be named? Why are you making it? I'm like, I don't know. So I'm glad you have that. But I just wanted to add one thing. I found an ordinance out of a municipality in Colorado that actually went further than what you've provided here. And that's just adding 3 other criteria. One being exceptional individuals would be a criteria to consider. The second would be historical events, places, or persons relative to renaming a park because of those reasons. And then the third would, obviously, money talks. So maybe those 3 considerations might be considered with our ordinance. I can give you the specific just to review. I don't know if it's too late at this point, but.
So may I ask, could you repeat that last one? So you're saying if someone gave us
Major gifts.
money,
It says city
that we
may
would change?
benefit from a rich legacy of community generosity over decades. City residents, businesses have given gifts of their time and skill, resources, and products of money. So basically, if a foundation were to donate $4 million to said park, they get their name on it, and that might be something to consider, a
Joe,
factor to consider.
I didn't write this, but you might want to correct me here, but I don't think it gives any reasons why a request is made, whether it's financially based, an exceptional individual based. It's just a request is made, right?
Right.
And then the reasons are given?
And that's what I'm proposing, that these criteria be added.
But we have to make sure that the community has say. So even if they did put that money in, the community has to be, that neighborhood has to be like, yes, we agree, you know?
Definitely community input, without a doubt, but just more factors to consider,
Pleasure.
rather than just, Joe Smith.
Yes, Joe Barry, First Assistant Corporation Counsel. So following up on what the commissioner said, if you look at section 17-45 of the proposed ordinance, it really spells it out, kind of the proposed process. And the idea is that, any request submitted must contain the name change, the existing name, and a brief statement and justification. And that will be the item that the council considers. And within that context, on a case-by-case basis, the council can consider all the specific factors surrounding that proposed name change. So we don't really spell it out in that level of detail that maybe Colorado did.
Right. And that was just my suggestion, because, we could get 3 proposals for the same park. One could be, a family that's been related to that park for 100 years. The next could be a family that was related to 101, like just compelling criteria that could better help our council so that we don't look like we're being preferential, like almost quantitative as well as quantitative. I don't know.
I think it's one of those balancing acts that we don't want to get too specific in the ordinance to straitjacket the process, but we can, it's really the pleasure of the council if
Right.
if
So what we
want
can
me to
do
look
is,
at that for a revision, I can.
we can have a committee meeting, we could
Just
talk
even
about.
consider it, you can even get together with Joe and talk about it, but for instance, exceptional individuals, I think would apply right now to Sheridan Park. They came, they gave their proposal, obviously a well-decorated firefighter. In my opinion, that would fall, but I just think it gives the council some criteria and guidelines so that it doesn't make it look like willy-nilly. It sounds good. I'll share the ordinance with you both, you can review it later.
Okay. Any other
Are you
questions?
considering a committee meeting or?
Yeah, anybody else have any questions?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment,
Okay.
because I don't think that we willy-nilly approve street signs and things like that anyway. I think that it was a procedure that we went through to basically find out why we're naming a particular anything after anybody. So I don't think, because I done had 1 million people come to me about naming a street. We don't just normally jump out there and rename things for people. So we do have a certain criteria.
One of the things that the intent is to keep, this is very simple, so keep it simple so the council can have more say
Flexibility.
over of that particular proposal, so.
And I think it's, that reminds me, it's important to note similar to Buffalo, the threshold for council approval is a 2/3 vote. To keep it, because it seems, I think the idea is it's an important decision and a very public decision affecting neighborhoods. So the level that I proposed is 2/3. The council can scale that back to a majority if you wish, but just wanted to point that out.
So Rashida, you gonna call a committee meeting?
You got a question? Oh, yeah, we can call a committee meeting. I'll call a committee meeting on that, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Item 13.
I'm going to ask permission to skip to, because there's a lot of
Oh,
forestry
yes.
items.
Yep,
So
go
I'm
ahead.
going to skip to 20 and 21, which are related items. This is a request to authorize capital improvement funds for court improvements, and there is a list of potential parks on the Schedule A. And if it's all right, I'll skip to 23, which is the last of my items. This is authorized payment to Turnpike 315. They have played, I think, 3 out of the last 4 years for the holiday tree lighting. Very well-received band.
Yes. Thank
And then, so I'm going to take you back to 13, and the rest are forestry items.
Thank you. Good evening. Steve Harris, City Arborist. I have 7 items on here for forestry at parks. The The first is to appropriate from cash capital $40,000 on behalf. Oh, this is money already authorized, but the ordinance had the wrong fiscal year. It said 21, 22, and it should have said 22, 23. So that is just a typographical error that we wanted to correct.
Okay.
Yeah, noted. I wasn't trying to do that. Request letter had it wrong. The next one is our agreement with Onondaga Earth Corps for, sorry, there's two separate items for Onondaga Earth Corps. So this is to renew the contract. This is a 5-year contract on 1-year renewals, and as an oversight, we did not bring last year's to council. So now it's time to renew again. And so we are asking to renew last year's ending now and to renew for next year.
And that leaves one more year renewal, correct?
Yeah.
Because there are 2
Yep.
years.
There'll be a 1 year and an 8-month thereafter.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You're saying it's gonna be over a little bit over almost 700,000. How many trees do they remove? And planting, like, they're removing trees and planting. How many trees do they, like, averagely remove?
The invasive species removal.
Yeah.
When they're not removing just trees, they're removing lots of small trees. So this work is inside the fence along the creek walk. And when you look in the creek walk, it's bursting at the seams with plants. So they're going in and removing 1 to 6 inch stems and then vegetation and clearing out areas and preparing them for planting native plants that can control the wild growth.
And this is just only for the creek walk?
This grant is for all along the sections of the creek walk, of the new creek walk, of what was built from West Street to Kirk Park.
Any questions, anybody?
So we're about halfway through that project and nearing the end.
Item 15.
Okay, thank you. So 15 is to renew immediately after we entered into this contract with Onondaga Earth Corps to do the Creek Walk project. We also then put out a bid for Conservation Corps services, which they were then awarded, which has pay items very similar to the work they're doing at the Creek Walk, but we're doing them elsewhere. And that is up for renewal. We didn't miss any renewals on that one. And we are asking for that to be renewed.
Any questions?
Just a general question, Steve. What happened to invasive species that are off city limits, such as things that are in private property? What do you do with that? Is there because I feel like that could eventually spill over to city areas, right? What happened to that?
I mean, that's a challenging issue. Property owners are responsible for the management of things that happen on their property. We do have in our tree ordinance the authority to go on the private property to address tree issues that are impacting the surrounding landscape. And that is the catalyst that came about after the Dutch elm disease. So back when Dutch elm disease came out, 41 out of 100 street trees were elm trees, And then, of course, they were everywhere in everyone's backyards. And at the time, in the attempt to control the spread of Dutch elm disease, cities across the country were doing this, going on the properties. But I have in rare circumstances used that power. We mainly do it for code violations of dead trees that are on a derelict property and no one's doing anything about them, and we're the referee of that, so we do something about that. But I have not really extended that to a place that comes into play as Japanese knotweed. We now have these instances where there's knotweed in our paper street. You know, it's a street on paper, but not in practice. It's a dead end, and the street continues on. We'll have a patch of knotweed there, and it starts spreading into people's properties, or neighbors have next door are impacted by that. But it's an issue we haven't dealt with extensively, but it is coming up. If it's private, we tell the property owner it's their responsibility.
Okay, and we haven't really made any proactive move to make sure that we
Do
help.
you have a specific circumstance you're thinking about where that would apply?
I'm just asking because, you know, when you see plants that have fruit, you know, bird will carry them, you know, eat and carry them somewhere, and then they will grow again somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm just asking if there's a proactive approach to kind of help homeowners that can't get rid of stuff like that.
Yeah.
To be able to.
There is nothing that formal, no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item. Item 16. Tree pits. So council recently authorized $350,000 for us to do streetscape work to make tree-friendly streetscapes, and we are now asking to apply an additional $120,000 to that to bring our not exceed amount for that allocation to $470,000.
Any questions?
Do you have a list of the tree pits?
I mean, we know where all our tree pits are. A vast majority are downtown, but then also in our business districts. So the purpose of these dollars is primarily to help improve that, because as we've talked about, a 4x4 tree pit, we're not doing those anymore because trees can't be successful with that little rooting volume. So the idea is
A list of who's getting new ones, or how you're abating old ones, or?
I mean, our primary goal is to leverage existing streetscape projects in the pipeline and to look at what we're doing as a city, our bigger projects. And if there's something that's coming down the pike that wasn't accounted for, then we can supplement that. An example I gave at the last council session was the DRI project, which would focus on West Onondaga Street and South Ave. And it would just allow us to make sure that the designs that the public came up with and that we envisioned as a community can be followed through on. So those dollars could help leverage any dollars that are awarded toward that effort.
So there's no actual list yet of where they're going? You're just going to keep an open mind as you continue to
Yes, I mean,
develop?
most of it we would like to dedicate to those things, and then a small percentage will be for case-by-case problem tree pits that we have. For example, we have an issue up on Marshall Street right now where the tree pits are buckling all the brick, and something needs to be done there, and the trees there are healthy. What are we going to do? And we got to be able to respond to those public safety concerns.
And before I let you go, Steve, do you have a list of the trees that have been planted in neighborhoods? And do you know how many have been planted?
Yeah, what kind of breakdown would you like?
Well, I'm just curious because I read an article just yesterday, and they talked about trees being a sort of a civil rights issue because in communities of color, there are less trees, which is more humidity in those communities than it is in the suburbs. So I'm curious to know, how many have you planted in residential areas in the city of Syracuse?
I can give you detailed info on that, but the summary here is that over the last decade, we've planted about 10,000 trees, and I would say somewhere between 60 to 80% of those have been in what we would call tree equity areas. So we tackle that issue very deliberately. We know what our tree equity neighborhoods are, and tree equity is defined as a combination of what the canopy cover is in a neighborhood and the socio-demographic factors in that neighborhood. They align very well with all our red line neighborhoods, because we know a map of tree cover is a map of income, and that holds true across the nation in any red line city. And so that is our goal number one, and it's expressly stated in our master plan. So I'm
Okay.
happy to show you what we've been doing and what our plans are.
And you're at 60%, you said.
I would say what I'm saying is we're dedicated, of our planting, 60 to 80% has been focused in those areas.
President, Mr. Harris has an excellent video synopsis of all that, a 12-minute video regarding the TNT in the city. He shows the TNT meetings occasionally with some council. Did you send that to us?
Yeah, I can share. I have to think about what you're talking about, but and part of if it's a video of me, I try and forget it. So that's all. Okay, good.
Elucidating about how great the tree is.
Well, I'll look for that. I'll share with you. But it's also, our master plan is wrapped up into MBD plans for the infill. So we're working very closely with MBD on how to strategize canopy and how to weave that into the Resurgent Neighborhood Initiative and what they're trying to do.
Thank you.
All right,
But these are, Steve, one quick question. So these are upon request, correct, for the new trees? So in certain neighborhoods, some people wouldn't know to request a tree. They wouldn't even know that it would help with the heat index. So how do you communicate that with some of our constituents who wouldn't know to request a tree?
We do have a portal on our webpage that I can't say would be readily easy to find, but we also have somebody who is going out door to door and helping us cite where trees will go and leaving information if they see a plant. We have a database of planting sites. And so we have a person going to those sites, deciding what type of tree and where they would go. And then they leave information about who to contact, and that information is directed to Kim Fon, my colleague sitting behind me.
Okay.
And then we communicate with them. But during the Save the Rain, Onondaga Earth Corps was going door to door and knocking on every door, rental or owner occupied, and asking people if they want a tree and making the pitch about a tree and why they're beneficial. And I encounter the legacy of that outreach all the time. Is Earth Corps who's planting this tree? They recognize, they remember that Earth Corps came. But we still only do property owner approval. Increases the time it takes to put a planting plan together significantly, but we believe it's good policy because it allows us to have a conversation with property owners, and we want to have the conversation, not just force a tree on them.
Okay, and so with this, a majority of our population that I think President Hudson was referring to, they may be renters. So do you reach out to the landlords and ask if they would like the tree? Or if you go to a door and they say they rent, you just walk away and leave the conversation?
We spent hours and hours during the Save the Rain using the rental registry to contact landlords and asking if they want a tree. And maybe we have planted some trees here and there at rental properties without perfect communication. But, especially on our boulevards, which maybe there are, like James Street, right? I think a lot of people recognize that boulevard as ours. It's a city boulevard. People don't think of it. The property owners there don't think of that space between curb and sidewalk the same way you and I do at our home in front of our house.
Gotcha.
So we communicate, but we also respond a little more. We make more assumptions that we're planting trees here in our business districts.
Maybe you covered this and I missed it, but if you get approval, to plant these trees in these properties, who takes care of the trees? Do we or do they?
We do, our department. So we ask property owners in the past, we're in a transition because we had a very active community forestry program with Save the Rain. Save the Rain came to the end. COVID hit, we were in this transition. We got to bring our community forestry program back. In that program, we had homeowner education. We had a good process of reaching out to homeowners, encouraging them to water. The things that homeowners can do is weed and water. And then we prune, we replace trees, we prune big trees. I mean, not only aren't people aware that they can get trees, but people aren't aware that we manage the trees, we prune, and we remove them. So we still have more to do, and our master plan gave us guidance on how to be more forward-facing and visible in terms of what services we provide as a department.
But you can only prune the trees that you guys planted.
We manage all the public right-of-way trees upon request,
Okay.
but some of them on our own management cycle.
Okay, gotcha.
Yesterday.
All the young trees are on a cycle.
How much more of that $2 million is left, Steve?
I would say 3/4. But we started in the winter, and Kim had just come on board, and so now this will be, our activity was small in the spring, and we're going to start picking up.
Good.
So you have 10,000 so far. What is your overall number by the time you're done?
For what again?
Tree planting.
For ARPA. Our goals are 3,600 over the project period, and pruning
For that.
4,500 trees, I think. I can't remember what the
That's
number
okay,
is.
you can just send it to me with
Sure.
all the houses and stuff you
Okay,
plant trees at.
with
That's
my
fine.
report
That's
to
fine.
you. Okay,
Okay.
will do.
Any other questions?
I have two. The first one is, and you said you use a lot of youth with Onondaga Earth Corps. Do we know how many are city kids that, or is it 100% city kids that Onondaga Earth Corps youth use as part of this?
100% city kids?
100%.
Yep,
Okay.
at this point.
Okay. My next question is, when you look at I-81, and it's coming down eventually, when you look at it, there's not a lot of trees around there. Is there a plan that eventually we are looking into maybe putting some trees around there, with this collaborating with the state and the city, or that has not been discussed yet?
The DOT put forward a plan with aggressive tree planting, and then during the DEI process, we had a chance to comment on that plan.
Okay.
Integrating the trees with the pedestrian aspect of that landscape. So when I commented on trees, I did that in concert with our transportation planner. So we were looking at a bigger picture, not just trees.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thank you.
Okay, so there's still more.
Yeah, I know. I think we're at item
Okay.
18, right?
I think the next one before me is, that is correct. So, thinking about the Creek Walk Phase 2 grant and contract that we were renewing for Onondaga Earth Corps, that was funded by mitigation money from Onondaga Lake Cleanup. And there's another grant round, and we want to apply for 1.2 million to do from Franklin Square to the mall. And so we're seeking permission to apply for that grant.
Any questions? Thank you. Item 19.
Two more. So this next one, we're asking to purchase some data. And this data was assembled by a consultant when they did our urban tree canopy analysis. And that urban tree canopy analysis was it was spatial data using technology to look at how many trees we have and the change from 2013 to 2019. So during that time, we actually lost 1% canopy. And we're going to look at that change every 2 years. And and that's the service they're providing. But in addition, they assembled all this data that we want to use. By we, I mean forestry, we want to have it, and we want MBD to help us do analysis about canopy in our neighborhoods to address what you were getting at, President Hudson. And so we're asking if we can purchase that data, which is raster data that would be put into our GIS.
So you're going to be maintaining that data then, obviously, going beyond 2019?
Well, so in 2020, the 2021 flyover that the feds did, that will update. We want to, every 2 years, update canopy, and the consultant does that. But we want the data that they use to provide that analysis to do our own analysis. It'll allow us to do different kind of analysis in-house and allow the universities to do the same.
And that's going to cost how much every, you said 2 years?
This is a one-time purchase for the data we want to buy right here.
Right, so, but you said going forward, when the feds do the flyover.
We put out a bid for this consultant to do work, and that bid still was 3 years of using their software and of doing this analysis. So how much it'll cost every year, I can't say. I mean, if we did this permanently, it's like $8,000 a year for them to provide that software.
Okay, so it's not 180 every couple of years.
You are looking at the wrong one.
Oh. 19.
Look at
Sorry.
18.
Okay,
6,000 for the data we want to purchase.
okay. sorry.
6,700. And IT will purchase that data and we'll use it.
Okay, thanks.
Let me ask one quick question, because you talk too long and I've got coming up with questions here. So, let
I'm
me
only
just say-
answering questions
Let me
asked,
just
guy.
say this. Being that we talked about, you looking at the data to what I referred to, the feds and the state has a civil rights department, correct? And do they have grant
If you
funds?
tell me they do, I believe you.
But do they have grant funding for this type of thing since they issued the report? Do they have any funding that we could apply for? Do we know?
There's, especially with this new, with the Inflation Reduction Act, there's a record level amount of funding that we'll be looking at going forward,
Okay.
specifically to address tree equity issues. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any questions? One more, Steve. I think it's 22.
Okay, this is the final one.
Yeah.
We want to authorize $180,000 to do some cyclical pruning in some select neighborhoods, small blocks scattered throughout the city.
I'm lost. Where are
It's
we?
19,
It's 19.
19, the one.
Oh,
You said 22, but it's 19.
yeah, but, okay, she did that. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, yeah, I had just done 22.
Right.
That's what 22
Yeah,
was.
well, 18 and 22 are sort of,
So 18, and now I'm on 19.
Right.
And that is my last one.
okay, go ahead.
And that is to do some block pruning scattered throughout the city on whole blocks, one tree after another, based on our re-inventories that we've been doing over the last 3 years.
Any questions? Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
No.
No questions? Thank you. Madam Hatter.
All righty, you're all done, so we're gonna go to Councilor Green. Wait, did we do 23?
23, you still need to do 23.
Did Julie do that one?
Julie did that. I thought she did that when she was here.
She did 21 and 20. Oh, yeah, she
She
did.
did do 23. She did that early. She talked about the tree lights.
Yep.
We're all set. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councilor Green.
Okay, Madam President, item 24.
Afternoon, councilors. Brad O'Connor, Commissioner of Finance. What I am requesting is an extension of our relationship with 3+1. 3+1 provides liquidity and treasury analysis services to us. So essentially what that means is they take all of our banking data and they analyze it, project it over future terms, and really where we get the most value from them is they group that analysis into risk tiers that allows us to make more informed decisions on our investing and borrowing. So we're really maximizing the dollars that we have on hand and minimizing the amount that we have to borrow. Last year, their services saved us about $280,000. That was in a rate environment where we were earning close to zero on our investments and borrowing at under 2%. Those rates are up considerably. So I'm expecting the work that they do to save us considerably more than that this year. The other thing that they do for us is consult on our banking operations and relationships. So they've got relationships with every bank in New York State. They are up to date on best practices and the services the banks are offering. So they're able to negotiate with our banks for better fees and better services.
So the request letter mentions the request coming from the Parking Violations Bureau. Is that just where the code comes from, or why is that?
I'm not sure where you're seeing that.
This is the letter from Director Rudd. There.
It's not coming from the Parking Violation Bureau. This would be Bureau of Accounts. That is either a typo on my request letter with the account number or a transposition on his part.
Okay. Other questions on this item?
So would we be able to see that analysis when it come?
Yeah, definitely. And they, I can show you what they've done in the past. They report, we meet with them monthly. They do their full analysis quarterly, so I can share that with you and show you what they do.
And you said we saved about $280,000 last year. Where was that saving primarily from?
A lot of the savings was on, because we weren't able to take advantage of higher interest rates, a lot of the savings was on the expense side. About $140,000 of that was a reduction in what we actually pay to the banks for fees.
You're saying that not only that, but they would help you, kind of research what best rates are out there and be able to recommend them to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly session.
So you said you used these services last year and you're requesting for next year. How do you expect it to be an annual thing, or?
Right now I do. They provide tremendous value. Any question that we have, they've been able to answer. They're the only ones in the country that do this, and they do it for 250 government entities, and so they've got information that we couldn't access any other way. But this year is the most important year with interest rates going up. We've got a lot of cash in the bank from ARPA funds and other sources. We'll assess it every year, but it seems like a relationship that would be valuable for us in the future.
Yeah, that word future, I was going to ask the next question. When you look to the future, do you look 2 years, 10 years, 20 years? Does it depend on what the category is, and how does that help your team, or does it kind of grow your skill so that maybe in-house can get better?
Yeah, the farther we look into the future, the less reliable the information is. So we're looking at everything from a month down the road to 5 years down the road. We're really focused a lot on the 12 months that we can see, because that's where we can project our revenues and expenses more accurately. And certainly we've learned a ton from them. We've been working with them for 2 years, and we've learned a ton. We expect to continue to learn a lot about these banking relationships. Banks have very unique requirements, very unique services. Each bank delivers their services differently, so we are learning quite a bit from them.
Okay, thanks.
What about the auditing? Is this something that may be a supplemental to the auditing that Bernardino does, or is it how?
This is really more, it's an ongoing cash management tool, where the audit is a backward-looking assessment of our accounting. It will help us have a better handle on our banking relationships, which, is going to help our ongoing accounting. But largely, the value that they're providing is in forward-looking cash analysis.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Item 25.
Good afternoon, councilors. Kelsey May, Director of Digital Services. Item 25 is just a correction to a previous ordinance that incorrectly listed the not to exceed amount at $745,000. The correct not to exceed should have been $964,000. And this is for IT services with each of these vendors, which was competitively bid about a year ago and renewed for 1 year in May, this past May.
So that was a typo, a $200,000 typo?
Yep, so the ordinance had been amended several times before that, so it had been an accounting error on my side.
If you need law to explain a little bit more, they can if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you would like to, Patrick?
We're just talking about the not to exceed changing from 745 to 964 and how that.
Good afternoon, Patrick Parkinson, Department of Law. So what happened with the most recent amendment, there was an appropriation of ARPA funding, I think it was $620,000. That was added to, and so we went to the actual agreement, the authorization agreement that had, it's difficult to explain, so I'm just trying to think of how to. Unfortunately, that reference, when we amended the authorization, referenced a previous ordinance, which had been subsequently amended twice by this council. So the number is not accurate. It reflects an addition of $620,000 to the amendment 2 amendments ago. So all this is correcting that.
Yeah, to the 344 that was amended on ordinance 347.
Correct. So this is adding $620,000 to that amount.
IT ordinances get kind of, they can get kind of, confusing because of the amends and all that, so.
And there was like 5 amendments on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct. And so unfortunately, I don't know how it happened, but we didn't account for the most recent 2 amendments. We went back too far. So this is just updating it based on previous approvals and making the amount whole.
And it's less money.
Okay,
Okay,
that's all I have.
thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Okay. Item 26 will be discussed in executive session on Monday. Item 27.
Hi, councilors. Matt OJ, Commissioner of Assessment. The first of our 2 items, we are seeking council authorization to enter into a lease agreement for telecommunications equipment up at the Morningside water towers. This is a property that's been under lease by at least 2 telecom providers for about 20 years. Previous agreements were a little unusual, didn't involve most of the usual law, assessment, water stakeholders involved. So we've been negotiating with 2 telecom providers for the better part of a year, and hope to get them under lease going forward.
Questions on this?
I just have a quick question about maintenance. Because I
Right.
know we've had
Saw
the
that
Axe the
too.
Garage debacle, and I'm just wondering if the terms in that lease are very explicit.
These will be tight. This does require the lessee to actually plow up to the water towers for our water employees to get access to our facilities. And we get fairly specific in the language in which we expect them to do so.
So it's just exterior maintenance, nothing to the building,
That
or?
they will maintain, I'm sorry, for the lessor or the lessee? For us or for the tenant?
For the tenant,
For the tenant, we expect them to keep the entirety of that path from, I believe that's the extension of Broad Street, or maybe Morningside Terrace. We expect them to keep that clear of snow and ice. They need to maintain in their entirety their own equipment up there. And I think that's the extent of their maintenance responsibilities.
The 12% increase, so is that after the first 5 years for the next 5 or each of the 5 of the next round?
So once we get into renewals, that will be 12% at each 5-year interval. So after 10, we'll come back, 12% bump there. In year 15, there would be a 12% bump there, and so on.
every
So
5
yeah,
years.
pretty significant escalation.
So I'm very supportive of leasing out city property to gain revenue so we can support our operations. And I know the council put in money this year to hire someone to help do that. So I would encourage, I know you've already been working on that, but the sooner we can get someone in there, I think it would really benefit the city, so.
Understood. Thanks, Counselor.
28.
We are seeking approval to amend the roll for this year. We had a property owner who qualified for a senior exemption. The IRS ultimately sent this property owner an amended income tax return, and that qualified the property owner for a more substantial senior exemption.
Questions? Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Councilor Paniagua.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have items 29 and 30. And go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Rick Elsevier, Director of HR. So 29 is to essentially push for a no increase, push the RFP off for a year for our United Healthcare, which oversees the medical and prescription for all of our retirees. This is being requested because United Healthcare is coming to us saying that we can go into a one-year agreement without an increase and RFP next year, which will allow us to see true numbers of what that cost will look like in the future when we RFP, because it's currently clouded by COVID numbers. So we are essentially getting a no increase year extension, and that allows us to competitively look next year when we compare that against whoever else we include in the RFP.
And what is it that we're charging the Syracuse City School District?
So we usually follow suit with the school district and the county, and they are both going into this agreement that they're extending for 1 year.
Are there any questions? Okay, so next, 30.
And number 30 is to extend the PPA, which is the Personal Protective App, which is our COVID tracking. We would like to extend that for 1 more year with a not to exceed amount of $50,000. So that helps us with all of our COVID tracking for all of our city employees and vaccine records as well.
Do you use ARPA money for that, since that's an ARPA or a pandemic-created issue?
That's a Frank question, sorry.
Frank Kaliva, is that my last name? Kaliva, city's chief administrative officer. We did use ARPA money to purchase this the first year, and this is this renewal. We put it into the operating budget for software purchases in the event that we needed to renew, and we decided that we probably need to renew at least 1 year to be safe.
Okay, is that a state mandate, obviously, that requires?
It is not a state mandate, no. This was our own, this was to track our own vax or test requirement that we put in place. We required all employees to be vaccinated or to test weekly, and this is a secure database that met HIPAA requirements that allowed us to track vaccinations, but not have general access to that information.
Great, thank you.
Are we pleased with the effectivity of this?
It's great. We wouldn't have been able to do any of the things we needed to do around the policy without having it, Counselor. Yeah, it's been a very good tool.
Thank you. Any other questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, Councilor Gathers.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 32 to 48. Reason being is we're going to withdraw item number 31. We have 32. Anybody here to speak on 32?
Some of them, but most of them is really good.
Okay.
Just saw Judy.
Good afternoon, councilors. Corey Dunham, Chief Operating Officer. So this is following a couple of other legislative items that have come before the council the last few meetings. So this is for us to acquire 900 West Fayette Street, known as Life Art Park, from SIDA, since we'll be maintaining, and I think we are taking over ownership.
The Parks Department?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So with that being said, I mean, Light Park is beautiful. I had a chance to see it. It's a lot of maintenance, though. How is that? Is that put already in the budget, ready for that? I mean,
So that would be, it would be included in the mowing contracts that we have through the Parks Department. So that would just be another parcel that we add to the contract.
okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 33.
Hello, Ann Fordock, First Deputy Commissioner of DPW. And so item 33 is an agreement with Rubicon Global, and this is a program for routing and turn-by-turn directions for our snowplows. So this is going to cover the equipment, the software, technology to run this so that we can get it in the trucks before the first snowfall comes. Do you have questions about this? It's just bringing us into, you know, this decade kind of with routing and technology and turn-by-turn directions. It's going to be a lot safer. If you're thinking about driving a big plow, I wouldn't know every street, so you're not going to miss one because you're going to have turn-by-turn directions. But I
Just a
saw
really
you had
quick
a
question
question.
about API. I know they won some award for the snow mapping.
Yes.
So is this going to obviously
They
work?
helped me with this, and so we did consider, this is on Smart Source, there's a contract for it, so it's not, I'm not asking for a waiver of competitive bid or anything. We did look at different programs and different companies, and they had the best features that we needed, and it was something that we were looking at optimization of many programs and many routes, but this was something that we feel like we can pull the trigger and get this in before the next snowfall. And API has been key in this evaluation process and helping choose a vendor that fits our needs and works with our existing software, so.
So this is training too for everybody involved in?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
So that includes all.
We gotta get it in the trucks first, but it's, you know, it's gonna be a screen right there, and it's gonna show you.
Simple.
Yes, and so if you say you're going home sick, you didn't finish that route, we don't have to say, oh, those 3 streets aren't gonna get plowed or gonna get forgotten about. We can toss them on somebody else's route, and it's gonna automatically send them there, so.
Very efficient.
So the 218, that's for the duration? Are we looking at coming back asking for more money because we over, under counted?
The 218 is for 3 years, so it is it's on the back page of mine, but I'm not sure where it is in yours. So the first year has the licensing costs, the tablet equipment costs. So the first year is a little more expensive. It's like 107, and then the subsequent years are just, you know, 55 per year. So after 3 years, we will have to decide, do we like this program? Do we want to continue with it?
Okay, I get that, but we're not gonna be amending the cost. This is it.
Not as far as I can see, no.
All right.
And what's the cost of the current software?
There is no turn-by-turn software at all. You get a piece of paper that tells you where to go.
Sort of woke
So there's, the cost is 2 cents right now, so.
So would the community have the ability to follow the truck where?
So we're gonna have that same amazing snow map that Councilor Schultz mentioned we won an award for, and it's gonna tie right into that. They're not gonna see that, like, you know, give me the name of one of our plows. It's fun, I don't know. Jocko, right? You're not going to see what Jocko's going to do, but you'll see what he had done, right?
I would just wonder if we're gonna have to go through the naming rights thing. We might. As
Oh,
well
Yes, someone want to sponsor it and give it naming rights.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Item number 34.
Good afternoon, Mary Robison, City Engineer. We have a couple new TIP projects that we're hiring consultants on. So item 34 is an agreement authorizing an agreement with CNS Engineers for our new East Brighton Ave paving project from Thurber to Seneca Turnpike. This is asking for preliminary design to be authorized in the amount not to exceed $356,000. And we are receiving the 15% Marchicelli, 80% federal, and so there's 5% local match.
Great.
Yes,
Any questions?
yes. I am so happy that they are doing something with Thurber and Brighton. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so, thank you.
Any questions? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just the beginning. It's not going to happen next week.
Hey,
Let's start.
at least we are moving.
Patience. Item 35 is also a new project for paving East Colvin Street from Comstock Ave to City Line. We're asking for authorization for an agreement with Clough Harbor, or CHA Consulting, also known as Clough Harbor, for the preliminary design fee.
Absolutely.
Yes.
This one I only have 8.38% Marchicelli,
What happened?
President Hudson. We got additional money, which is item 36 through 38, and for this phase, and we didn't get the Marchicelli. We might get it in next year, in which case I'll come back to you.
Okay. I'll take it.
Any questions on,
You are doing
CHA.
great, Mary. You're doing great.
Item 37, please.
so 36 through 38 are, we need additional money for the preliminary design phase, and so we got a tip amendment from SMTC. So we're asking to amend the bond ordinance, the agreement with New York State DOT, and authorization for the project, increasing it by $202,000 for a total of $404,800.
Any questions? Next item, please.
Item 39 is related to the Solar Street paving project. We have had an agreement with Fisher Associates. We're asking to amend the agreement to add an additional $27,200 to their fee. We had some additional pedestrian safety improvements at the intersection of Hiawatha and Solar. And this is 100% reimbursed, 80% federal, 20% state. Funding is available, so there's zero cost to the city.
Madam President?
Yeah, because I like that, but anyway, let's go to here. So let me ask you this question, Mary. So I know Hiawatha, they were repaving that this past year.
Yes.
And are they gonna do a mill and pave on that? Is this part of it? or
No, this project is actually now done. We did these pedestrian signal improvements earlier this summer.
So when are we looking at mill and pave on that? After the?
Hiawatha,
Yeah,
we're done.
okay, we'll talk
We,
off.
okay. This one was Solar Street. We paved Solar Street just south of Bear up through the intersection at the mall.
Okay, we need to talk, because
Okay.
who did the paving on, mill and pave on Hiawatha?
I don't know if is that a DPW project?
Was it even done?
Right.
Huh?
I know, because I asked a question about it, and I was told that they were just doing it now to kind of save the road, and then they will be going back through milling and paving it. So I'm just curious to know. Okay.
All I know is there's no more tip money for Hiawatha Boulevard. We did mill and pave, west of it a few years ago.
They did something this past year, because I
Okay.
rolled by and I
Maybe it's
questioned it.
towards Park Street you're talking about?
Yes,
I think that might be on DPW's list. I'm not sure.
okay. So if you can get me some information on that, please.
Mayor, I have a quick question. It's related to this, but it's not. Who handles the relationship with, I know you're doing Colvin Street and then the railroad, the DOT. Is that DOT with the railroad up there? How bad it looks, like how it's crumbling down? Because like we're doing the paving, but the bridge, yeah.
At 81, that would be DOT.
And the lighting too is DOT?
Oh, excuse me.
Lighting, like underneath how dark it is, that's DOT too? With that?
Have to think about, that might be us, I'm not sure. Let's check into that.
Might be, because Kent took it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calvin in 81, right?
Yeah, the lighting, how dark it is, and it's, you know, you got kids and people walk, and that's
Yep.
a school right up the street.
I know we've put lights on other railroad bridges over our roads, so I'm thinking it might be us.
Okay.
But I'll check on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have item 40 as well?
Where was I? Fisher, Solar Street, we're done, right?
Yep.
My last item is the West Genesee Street Mill and Pave project, amending the agreement with Barton and LaJudas. We had some additional detailed design work that had to be done in the amount of $25,000, and then we're adding the construction inspection phase for $980,000. So a total amendment of $1,005,000 for a total fee not to exceed $1,627,000. And this one's going out to bid this fall.
Thank you. Item number 41.
Good afternoon, Joey Wald, Water Commissioner. Item 41 is a request to authorize us to enter into an agreement with National Grid. This is to have them replace our water main on West Genesee Street between the blocks of Clinton and North Franklin. Currently, their gas main is directly on top of our water main, and in hopes to get the water main moved before the West Genesee project that Mary just talked about gets underway. Put a new water main in the street rather than the sidewalk. That way there's no utility conflicts.
What will be the disruption to the businesses and residents down there?
So they could put a parallel main in, get it pressure tested, disinfected, improved, and then transfer services. So the interruption would be probably about an hour to transfer the services once the main is installed and approved.
And we will notify them, correct?
Yes. And this would all, we're hoping that National Grid would bear the whole cost of this relocation because of the utility conflict.
Any other questions? Okay, item 42.
Item 42. Item 42 is to amend our current contract with GHD to enter into our next phase of the CMMS implementation program. This will incorporate the rest of our operational needs we have at the water department, such as incorporating the meter department into this CMMS system, our engineering group, consolidating our backflow preventer database. We also have a little bit of money in here to assist with parks and creating their process mapping of their workflows. So this would be the second phase to kind of finalize that process for the water department. Any questions?
Any questions? Item 43.
43 is request to apply and enter an agreement with the New York State EFC for grant funding for our Mosley Pump Station and Water Main Replacement Project. Our hope is to get this project out to bid this fall so we can begin construction next spring. Any questions?
44.
44, request authorization to enter an agreement with the Village of Skinny Atlas. Now, this was part of our chlorination project we initialized, I think, a few months ago. Looking at the project as a whole, to build a new facility on our parcel down in Skinny Atlas was going to cover part of our conduit system. So we looked at different locations on our parcel where we could put our new facility, and we came to the assumption that maybe we can partner with the village because their building is right next door. And currently we manage their water system for them because they don't have the operators. So we spoke with the village to look at, doing a shared service type of approach of putting both chlorination facilities in one building, since our conduits and their chlorination point are in essentially the exact same location. So this is just for a study and design phase that we want to get into an agreement with them. Because once we have this agreement, we can then apply for the intermunicipal agreement grants through EFC to help pay for this design and study phase.
And is that saltwater system being considered with this as well?
That is one of the, to apply for the IMA grant, you need to do a certain number of options to look at for your facility. Either a do-nothing approach, a sodium hypo approach, using chlorine gas for both facilities or a combination thereof, and these on-site generations. So that is one of the approaches we're looking at.
Okay, good.
Any questions?
45.
45 and 46 are kind of combined. This is for our annual hydrant replacement program to authorize cash so we can purchase the hydrants that we need to replace. Any questions?
I don't see how many hydrants are being replaced.
How many we have replaced? Or how many this would,
This money, how many are these gonna replace?
I'll have to look at, because I know the cost of all of our materials have just jumped. So I don't know how many $200,000 we'll buy. Typically, it's around 80, but that was like last year pricing.
So how many do we have to replace that's needed right now?
I think there's about 500 we need to replace.
Okay,
So every little bit we can get, we can replace them one at a time.
and
And
do we
it-
use some of the money, because I know that we charge people, if like they run into the hydrant, do we go after their insurance company for replacement of that hydrant?
Yeah, so if a hydrant is hit, like somebody hits it with their car or whatever, and there's a police report, we can bill that repair or replacement to the insurance company and get that money back in full.
And, okay, this is my last question on this. So how many insurance claims, if you know offhand, have we actually filed for hydrants
Many?
being hit?
I don't know that number off the hand, but I know, we're pretty vigilant on that because that is a good, reimbursement to all of our equipment. But I can get that number for you.
Okay.
Can you define need? You said some of them you need to replace. So need meaning they're not working or they're like
Correct.
past their life expectancy.
Yeah, some of them are older hydrants, what we call substandard hydrants. They only have 2 nozzles on them instead of 3. So the newer ones that are up to current standards have the 2.5 nozzles and then the larger steamer nozzle. The old ones have just 2, and you kind of see them around in the city in a lot of the older neighborhoods. So as we do water main replacement projects and any upgrades in that area, we typically replace all of them on that stretch. So.
And can you share a list of those fancy new hydrants when they're installed? Because us district councilors love to tell our constituents that they're getting a new hydrant and what's going on.
I can definitely do that because there's all new ones on Brighton, from Brighton Towers up to the city line.
Great.
All of our work on West Genesee Street will all be brand new hydrants. Anything where engineering is doing a lot of road recon, we try to get in there ahead of time and get it all taken care of.
It's certainly one of the most favorite things I tell a constituent,
I'm
is
just
getting your
saying.
new fire hydrant.
You know,
I
I'm
think
just
that's a
saying.
good idea, though.
Because Parks and Rec still got a yellow one.
So who's got a yellow one?
Parks and Rec, right across the street, there's a yellow hydrant. I haven't seen one of those in forever.
That would be rare. And a lot of times when private companies put in their own internal loop, it's not our hydrants, we ask that they have a different color so we can distinguish our hydrants versus like a private facilities hydrant. But I have seen a couple painted orange. I've seen one painted black and white, one painted up like a dog. So
So red is ours.
red is ours.
Yellow would be private.
Yeah, we try and, tell any private facility that's putting in their internal loop, make yours a different color so we know, we can distinguish easily if it's ours we need to maintain or yours.
And doesn't the fire department sometimes paint them silver or other colors if they're,
So silver ones are ones that are very high, very, very, very high pressure. We don't want to touch those. Those are our kind of markings, so we know which ones and let the fire department know that should not be one to hook up to. But yeah, we kind of maintain, we repaint the hydrants as necessary. We just purchased, like last year, a new sandblasting booth to kind of blast the old paint off and repaint them, so.
So out of the 500 that you said we need to replace,
Yes.
are you responsible for each and every one of them?
Yes.
Oh.
We have over 5,000 in the system, so we got a lot to replace.
Thank you,
What-
Commissioner.
what's the life on those? How long do they last if you replace one, how long before you replace it again?
We have some that are probably almost 100 years old.
Sheesh.
It depends on how quickly they get hit by a car or not. But
they'll last for quite a long time. We do our regular maintenance of checking the chains and greasing the fittings and checking the plunger and all that type of stuff. But they should last a long time.
Thank you.
And the last two items, 47 and 48, kind of combined together again. This is cash capital to authorize our pressure reducing vaults, pits. We have about 9 in the city total. We have several that we found during our study last fall that were inoperable. So there's 2 we're looking at replacing, one at the intersection of Thurber and Brighton, the other one at the intersection of Ainsley and Brighton. We're replacing 2 other ones as part of our Brighton Ave project, so this would give us another 2 pits on Brighton Ave. Any questions?
Thank you, Commissioner. I just ask that you please get the information out to us requested by our President Hudson and the rest of us, and appreciate it. Thank you. Madam President,
do.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Hogan?
Thank you, President Hudson. You know, I am not confident pushing this forward on Monday. It seems like every time I ask more questions, it begets more questions. So I'm going to have another committee meeting on this.
So you're holding it?
I'm holding it. Be sometime next week.
Okay. Councilor Majuk?
Thank you, Madam President. I have item 50 to 62. Go ahead, Ray.
Good afternoon, Raynette Relaford, the administrator for the Citizens Review Board. This item is for our process server. So anytime we have to subpoena the police department to attend a hearing before the CRB board, this is a process server that we use. Anytime we have to subpoena anybody, if we are required to do that, he processes that for us. So we typically don't utilize the whole $3,000, but it's good to have it, just depending on the number of people we have to subpoena and what we have to use that for.
Questions?
Thank you.
Ray. Great to see you, Chief.
We got the
Good
fire
afternoon.
department first.
Rich Schaff,
That's
First
51.
Deputy Chief, Syracuse Police. Number 52 is a contract not to exceed $2,500 with MV Intech Technologies. That's a company we've been using for years and years and years to upgrade our internal website. Work's progressing along, and I don't anticipate needing this again next year, but we need this money this year in case we need to contract with them for anything as we're making the switch over to the city's new website.
Questions? Chief, why don't we let the fire department go first, because you got a whole bunch of stuff here.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. 51. I know they are gonna be mad at me if we let them sit here. They got fire to put out.
Afternoon, councilors. Rick Kisselstein, Executive Deputy Chief of Syracuse Fire. Item number 51 is a new community reach. We'd like to be authorized to accept payment from the public to include them in our EMT training classes. We'll have at least one every year, and this way we can accept payment for anybody in the public that would like to be trained as an EMT.
You answered my question about it being annually, but I asked a question earlier. So it says with firefighters taking priority, which I get that. So how many public people do you anticipate to participate in this?
It'll certainly vary. I would guess that probably every year we probably have five to 10 people that go for their EMT. So we have room to put 25 in the classroom, so we could fill the rest of that space with public, depending on the need.
Okay, so do you see just me coming in there, taking this class? So what would I do with it after? Can I go work for somebody?
You could work for ambulance services. You could, volunteer to do emergency medical with any of the surrounding municipalities that have volunteer services. You would be an emergency medical technician, certified in New York to
treat people.
I might just do that, okay.
the class year?
3 months.
3 months.
This is our EMS director, Captain Felice.
3 months. How many days?
I'm sorry?
3 months every day?
No, so the program, it's 2 nights a week, and they start, the first class will start in January, and they'll test in May. So it takes about three to 4 months, 2 nights a week, and a small number of Saturday sessions that we do.
Now, is there a reduced fee or this
I
is
was just
completely
gonna ask
free?
that. No, it's $1,000.
So for anybody outside the city fire department, it would be $1,000 fee.
Okay.
Which is just a little less than what other agencies around the city are charging already. So we're in line with what everybody else charges.
Got any scholarships?
I'm sorry?
You have any scholarships?
We do not.
Can we consider it? No?
Do you have any collaboration with the school district with this program?
So the city school district already runs an EMT program through the PSLA. So this would be above and beyond that. So this would be for anybody in the public who wants to take the course. The benefit of this to us is it allows us to run a class more frequently. When I have 10 or 15 firefighters that want to become EMTs that went through the recruit process and were only certified responders, our goal was really for them to be EMTs and they take the class for us. But by opening it to the public, it will offset the cost of the instructors and all the other things that we need. So really what it does is it lessens the burden on the city for providing the training.
And I got one more for you. Okay, you mentioned PSLA. So you have those students from PSLA. They decide they want to go into the fire department, but they still have to pay the $1,000 to take this course.
So if they're already, no, I'm sorry. So if they took the EMT program, they are certified through the school district runs a program where they become certified EMTs within the PSLA. Our market would be looking at people who are not students in the school district. These would be maybe somebody who's graduated high school who has a desire to have a career in emergency medical services.
Okay.
An EMT is the minimum level that you can function on an ambulance. So they could go work for AMR or any of the multitude of ambulance services in the county.
Thank you for that. See, wording is very important. You said PSLA.
That's it.
Okay.
Isn't it true that fire department, especially firefighters, are pretty much EMT certified, a lot of them, right?
So in the Syracuse Fire Department, the bulk of our providers are EMTs.
Okay.
We have a small group. When they come through the recruit academy, they are only certified at the certified first responder level, which is the lowest level at the EMS program. But our goal is to function at the EMT level. So we encourage those providers to take the EMT program. So every year we normally see anywhere between 8 to 15 firefighters that are ready to make that transition and take that additional training. So to have a class of 15 is good. To have a class of 25 where we can reimburse some of our costs is better.
And they're the ones that ride in the ambulance? Those would be the EMTs in your ambulance?
Yes, we on our ambulance, we never have New York State requires a minimum of an EMT. So certified first responders aren't qualified to be on the ambulance.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I know, Chief, you were excited to talk to us. You
I'm
can
very
come
excited.
back now.
Want me to start over?
No, don't start over.
No, let's go to 53.
Okay, I apologize for that.
No, you're good.
53 is contract not to exceed $15,000 with the Camillus Animal Hospital for our canine units. The reason we use that Camillus Animal Hospital is they specialize in canine, not dog, but canine. The work dogs have special needs. As a matter of fact, most of the area police agencies that have canines use the same hospital.
Okay, questions? All right.
54, this is one we inherited from Parks with the switch over from dog control coming over to us. And that's $50,000, and that's to be used to treat sick and injured animals that we pick up through our dog control people.
quick question about this switch over. How's that going, and is there still a dog officer that you're looking to hire, or has it been filled?
So we had one that went to Parks, but for whatever reason he had to come back. I'm not intimately involved with it, but I know I just saw one from you that I passed over to Sergeant Kramer complaint. It's functioning for us, right? We got a supervisor down there. They work hand in hand with our animal cruelty officers, which are the police officers. So they kind of work together. It makes sense to me to have them there.
Okay.
To
thanks.
Counselor Schultz's point, Chief, what about the communication issue with the public? Has that been solved where people would call and because you had an antiquated phone line into the dog control's office?
I'm not aware of that.
Well, could you check into it? Because people call, and if the dog control officer's on the line, it just rings and rings and rings.
Is that when they were at Parks or since they came over
It's
here?
over your place,
Okay.
so if you could check into that, it'd be great.
And I've had-
Well, what I will tell you is that we are in line for a new phone system. It's part of our capital project. So if it's not fixed, it will be fixed. We're going to that voice over VoIP, however that works.
Voicemail, you know,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have a voicemail.
The current phone system we got is so old that it's not serviceable anymore.
It's not.
It's not
A
serviceable.
lot of confidence when you're talking.
But I will look into that particular thing about the phone.
Chief, can I ask you a question? Because I've been getting complaints, basically, from people saying that there are breeders that aren't licensed to breed in this city. Are you aware of that?
I am not, but I can ask about that one too.
Yeah, because I've been brought to my attention, there's 3 breeders in the city, and they've actually confiscated some of the dogs, and if that's the case, then we might want to put some legislation in to talk about being a certified breeder.
Yeah, and I don't know what the rules are on that personally, because, I mean, people have puppies and they give them away and sell them all the time, but if you're doing it as, to make money as a business, I suppose you would need a license for that. Are you aware of certain complaints? Certain addresses, certain breeders that are doing that?
I'll get it.
Are they making money? Well, you just put that out in the public that you ratted on them. But if you send me, and seriously though, if anybody has a address that they think there's illegal breeding operations, if you send it to me, I will have somebody look at it.
There is state legislation about breeding.
I know Councilor Majoka and I have spoken about looking at the dog ordinances anyways.
And that's pretty much what we go by, you know.
Other questions? No. All right, 55.
65 is RFP for Dr. Ronald Fish. This is, he helps with our officer wellness program. The officers really respect him. He's part of our wellness app, our Cortico app. He used to do a lot of these services for free, but we decided to set up a line for him to get him paid when he does it. It's not to exceed $2,500. This is if officers feeling trauma, feeling some kind of way, they can reach out to him.
It says 5,000.
Yeah, 2,500,
Did you skip 55?
55. Do I stick together, Amy?
You're 55.
Okay, 55, I'm sorry. 55 is Dr. Leswing. That's just the opposite. That's mandatory. That one is $5,000. That's what we mandate officers to go see. So if the officer is involved in a traumatic incident, for example, all our officer-involved shootings, we make sure that they have to see somebody before they come back, and this is the doctor that the
Is that
department.
enough money?
So far, I mean, we've been doing it for a long time, and then we have to come say where we're gonna get the money from and come to you. So now we're trying to do it ahead of time, so we have a budget line for it.
But I'm looking at.
It should be enough money.
I'm looking at the amount, and I hear you talking about coming to us, but I really think that when we're talking about the mental health of our police officers,
Yeah.
we really need to,
Well, this is the mandatory one, the ones we make them do. The one that I had skipped to is the voluntary one, so they kind of go hand in hand. But this is the one that we as an administration use to make sure that they're okay to be working. And it should be enough. We have
The
historical,
question, Madam President, is asking, is this enough money?
yes, we have historical data that this is enough money.
Okay.
my therapist charge a whole lot.
I'm sorry? If it's not enough, we'll be coming back to you next year to ask for an increase. But historically, this should be enough.
Okay.
How do you select the testing, the psychological service?
Oh,
How do you select this?
how do we select them? This is just somebody that we've worked for that's local, and we have faith in him, and so that's why we use them. And now the psychological test that we use for the police academy is a whole different operation, and that's somebody out of Albany that we have to do the RFP for and all that stuff like that. But this is just for local stuff and hired police officers, not the academy new hires. All right, the one I had skipped to is the one that's voluntary, number 56. This is Dr. Fish. That's the $2,500 line. So if the officers, and this is enough money as well, if we're going to ask the same question, so far of our historical data, that if officers need to reach out to Dr. Fish because they're feeling some kind of way, then this is what this is for. This is not mandatory, this is voluntary.
I want to kind of go back to 55, Chief. You said only for things like shooting. What about things like stabbing? What about
anything that we feel, and it could even be, I said that was an example. For officer-involved shootings, we always send them.
Okay. You said any traumatic injury.
If we think that an officer's exhibiting some kind of symptoms for any reason, then we would send them.
Who make that assessment?
Usually they're supervisors. Now, if people want help and they're reaching out for help, we have a system in place for that as well.
Okay, because I would like to really see, considering the HIPAA stuff,
Yep.
to see who will refer to him and how many, because we have quite a bit of shooting, stabbing, all of that.
Yeah, so we don't typically send officers that respond to a stabbing, but if they're actually and it's not to shootings either, unless they express to us that they're having issues, then there's an avenue for that. This is what we say, hey, listen, our policy is if you're involved in an officer-involved shooting, you pulled the trigger, you shot somebody, our policy is that you get checked out to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, and I think you're trying to get, I think you get where we are going with this, because with officers being exposed to things that are not that normal daily, which is stabbing, shooting, you know what I mean?
So there's a couple avenues for that. One is the officer wellness program we've established, and we expanded that team from a couple people to 13 in the last year. So that's expanded to get people on every shift. So if officers feeling like they're having mental health issues, whatever, they can either do it this way, or we have the help people stuff that the whole city has. That's separate from this. This number 55 is stuff that we say, our policy says if you do this, you need to get checked out. If we're thinking, we're getting some complaints and maybe this person needs to be checked out, then that's what this particular line is for. But the other things that you're expressing, we have other avenues for those.
All right, other questions on 55 and 56? All right, 57, Chief.
57 is a request to have urgent care. This is where we can send officers for physical exams, hepatitis B vaccinations, and drug screenings for our drug investigation officers. We like them because they're accessible, they have a walk-in service, and I'm being told by our human resources people that it's the only occupational health clinic in the city. And that's not to exceed $10,000. The newly hired police, and if we bring somebody in for a transfer, if an officer's transferring from another agency, this is where we send them for their physical. They also get sent there for physicals when we hire new police officers, but the county pays for that.
Next.
Okay, this one here, I really don't have a good explanation for this one. So this is a service that was provided back in when we expanded that mental health team. And what the sergeant told me that did this, he says, listen, it was $300. I didn't realize that we had to go to council because the amount was so small. He now understands that he does have to go to council for these professional services. So I believe that issue is resolved. But this is something that we had hired Dr. Cross for $300 to teach a peer support team last October.
So this is already done, we just got
This was last, yes, sir. And like I said, the sergeant didn't realize that we had to go to council because it's such a small amount, so he made the contract, the verbal agreement to come in and teach this to our peer support team. And then we tried to pay him. We said, you got to go to council with this.
I mean, I kind of feel some way when people spend and then come to us and want approval. So,
I don't have a
I
good
mean,
excuse.
300 is not a lot of money, but it's just for next time, let's not spend and come look for approval.
The sergeant understands. I already had that discussion with him this morning because I'm the one on the hot seat.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Wouldn't want to be that sergeant.
Item 50, any questions? I'm sorry. Okay, 59.
So the next four kind of fit together all from our SWAT team. 59 is new body armor for the Syracuse Police Department SWAT team. That runs, now you can get this stuff, it's a request to waive the process. It's $1,900 to $2,600. They can set this up customizable, is where they save their money. But the amount that they're spending, that the SWAT team's asking to spend in this, is comparable to what they're spending on state contract. They've tested the body armor out and they feel like this is the best stuff. State contract is running between $2,000 and $3,000 for this SWAT body armor. They're asking to spend between $1,900 and $2,600
Per person?
per person. A lot of the savings comes because it's customizable. If you do a certain job on the unit, you only need these things with a vest, that's what you get. If you do this job over here and you need these things, this is what you get, A lot of the state contract, you're getting the whole kit and caboodle, which drives up the price. So the price is comparable to state contract.
Does this fall in line with like the feds and Homeland Security and all that good stuff?
I'm sorry?
Does this fall in line with the feds or Homeland Security?
I brought Lieutenant Metz with me from our SWAT team because I don't know the answer to that tactical stuff like that. Can you step up, Lieutenant?
What?
What was the question again? I couldn't hear you.
Is this in line with Homeland Security or the federal government?
This purchase is specifically made because our vests that we're currently operating right now, they're expired. There's a 5-year warranty on them. So they expired in May. This purchase item obviously will cover that. And now the warranties on these vests versus the ones we previously purchased are 10-year warranties. So now we won't be coming to you in 5 years for a request to purchase more vests. It'll be a 10-year period. So that's where the savings come out. Specific to your question, yeah, this is in line with all national standards for any type of tactical operators as far as rifle-rated ballistic protection. So yes, we are in line with the feds, the state, any type of entity that has a tactical element.
So can we get some money?
What's that?
So can
the
we get
feds to
some
pay
money
for it?
from them?
I've already completed a tactical team grant through the state for $75,000 as well. So we're just waiting to hear the results of that. So I do feel you're paying for the money and have applied for it for you.
Did you apply to the feds too?
What's that?
Did you go for the feds too?
We do not have a federal tactical grant. This one was a state one. So I will look for a federal one for you.
Okay, thank you.
So if you get that, it's going to go toward these uniforms, or?
The $75,000 that we have allocated is for other equipment, specifically camera equipment, some type of technological, the robot that we use to do interior structure assessment.
And then I'm gonna be cute about this. Can't you go for forfeiture money too? That's all used for law enforcement, I was told last week.
I'm not the budget guy, but if you want to question them about how the money's allocated,
But I was just curious, because this is all in line with law enforcement, so if we have all of these different entities and we have forfeiture money, I would think that that would be a good use for it. I would think, but I'm not law enforcement.
What I will tell you is that we are running short on forfeiture money because there hasn't been allocations in quite a while.
Okay.
But that's a good question, which I can find out for you.
Do we know how much is in forfeiture? What do you say? Is it like seized money that we take? How much, do we know how much is in there?
I don't know right now. There's a couple different accounts. I don't know the exact amount in each account.
Get closer to the mic.
Because I'm not
too.
trying to be cute, right? But I know SPD has it, AG's office has it, DA has it, Sheriff's Department has it. So we have all of this, which I don't know how much is in each bucket, but that should be able to help us pay for some of this. That's just me, but anyway,
I will get those answers.
thank you.
I have one more question. When you guys spend that money, do you come to us, or is that money just, you guys can just spend it?
I don't think we have to go to
The
council.
mic, chief, Mike, the mic.
I don't think we have to go to council, but I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you.
They don't.
I haven't
They don't.
I haven't crossed that bridge yet.
They don't. It's only for law enforcement, though. I asked that last week.
Lieutenant Metz, how soon will you be able to get this equipment, if passed and all that?
Relatively soon, within probably a month. So it's already been scoped out. We've been to the manufacturer. It's the same manufacturer that we purchased
our previous vest through, so we have a good working relationship. So as far as your concerns for liability, we will get them ASAP. So I know we are running on expired vests.
So,
The 10-year will be to the date that you receive them or the date that they were manufactured?
The date that we receive them.
Okay.
so when you say vests expired, what?
It's like car seats, they expire. They're not good anymore.
It's the same concept that Councilor Schultz said. Essentially, once the warranty goes, if something happens to one of us, the company overall is going to be like,
Not my problem.
Well, I know a lot about car
I
seats.
bet you do, Counselor. Are you using them properly?
So is that what you guys always had with soft armor?
no, this is hard armor, this is hard plate, it's rifle rated, so the ballistic rating is higher than what I have currently right now.
With the soft?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, other questions?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay, 60 is for ballistic helmets for the SWAT team. Same thing, these are off state contract, however, they are in line with the prices that were for state contracts. So for this, 61, which is a radio upgrade, and 62, which is a headset. The three of these all kind of go together, right? You got the helmet, the headset, and the push-to-talk set. They've all been tested and vetted by the SWAT team, and they believe that these are the best equipment, and they are all in line with state contract prices. And furthermore, the communication headsets, we're looking to change our radio systems, which we already came to council for. This will be compatible with the new radio system when that comes in.
Questions? All right. Thanks a lot, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Allen.
All right, thank you. I have items 63 through 82. Item 63 and 64, we're going to hold to have a committee meeting on Monday at 11 o'clock.
Can you hold 80 for me?
Okay. Item 65, this is with TNT, and this is the annual funding, I'm assuming the $140,000 for this year?
Councilor, it's Michael Collins from Neighborhood and Business Development. Yeah, this is the request to release the annual funding.
Okay, and with this, I know in the past there's been a little bit of controversy with the reporting from TNT. So is there a way for us to be able to get like a yearly report of how our $140,000 is spent? Just kind of breaking down the amount for each sector and just giving us a breakdown of what they did with the money.
We can absolutely make that request to TNT.
Okay.
Another quick question, is home headquarters still processing the financials for TNT? I thought I heard there was a change to that. No?
Currently, home headquarters is the fiscal agent.
So no change to that process, okay.
Not that I talked with home headquarters a couple weeks ago, and they were still fiscal agent.
Yeah, they're still doing it.
Excuse me, Michael, Jimmy brought something up here. Jimmy, if Michael, you can ask him to come up.
So I brought, Councilor Allen, I brought with me the actual breakdown of last year's $80,000 funding, and also this year's budget for the $140,000, which we'll receive for this coming year.
Okay, yeah, this is the one that I wanted to see.
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
So that's the entire breakdown of all the sector funding from last year.
Okay, got you. Okay. Any other questions? No? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, and so we have items 66 through 82.
Good afternoon, Councilors. Kimon Jordan, Director of Housing and Neighborhood Planning. So the first property we have, item 66, 402 Avery Ave, 5 years delinquent by about $13,000. Item 67, 106 Albert Street, 5 years delinquent by about $17,000. Item number 68, 107 Albert Street, it's about 6 years delinquent by $15,000. Item 69 at 307 Baker Ave, it's 23 years delinquent by $105,000.
And on that one, are we holding that for a new house, or is it gonna, the adjacent owner gonna buy that one? Do you know?
I do not know, but I can check. It's definitely set aside for infill or site reconfiguration for someone else.
Gotcha.
I have a quick question. As you go through this, you can answer. I mean, some of these houses are 5-year delinquent and some are like 20 and 42 years. why do we wait so long versus like a 5-year versus I see one we have 42 years on.
Right. So a lot of these are left over from phase 17. So this phase was started before COVID happened. And then we're resuming them now. So this is the end of a phase. But we decide to seize properties for a variety of reasons. Like we might prioritize one that's 5 years delinquent, but we need it for infill site development over one that's 42 years delinquent and really small and non-buildable, and no one, is interested in purchasing it.
So, and the other question is, with the ones that are owner occupied, I see they have different phases. So these are the ones that we reached out to and talked to, because there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 8 houses that are owner occupied.
Yep, so for all of these, we sent out a 60-day notice, and I do apologize, this sheet doesn't have any updated information on outreach we've done recently, but I can get that to you all, like
Okay.
details on all the phone calls we've made.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 1926 Caleb Ave, that's 4 years delinquent by $31,000. 240 Cleveland Ave, that's 4 years delinquent by $16,000. 225 Corning Ave, 6 years delinquent by about $12,000.
Actually, I want to reach out to him first. I'm going to hold this one for today, and then hopefully I can hear back by Monday on this one.
All right, 116 Dawes Ave, 5 years delinquent by about $19,000. 317-19 Delaware Street, 321-23 Delaware Street. So these ones are for infill housing development. First one is 42 years delinquent by about $134,000, and the second one is 19 years delinquent by about $99,000. Then we have 137 Eureka Street. That's 4 years delinquent by about $12,000. Item 77, 409 Griffith Street. That's 5 years delinquent by about $19,000. We have 206-10 Holland Street. That's 22 years delinquent by about $129,000. And we have 214 Holland Street Rear. That's 29 years delinquent by about $5,000. Those last two are set aside for infill housing development and strategic site assembly. We have 504 Ostrander Ave. That is 4 years delinquent by $8,000. I'd like to withdraw 121 Pleasant Ave. The owner did make a payment early August, and they redeemed.
So you want to hold item 80, correct, Council
Yes,
President?
please.
And then withdraw item 81?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll have information on Monday.
And Alan, Council Allen, can you hold 82 for me too, please?
82?
Yes, and I'll have an answer by Monday.
Okay.
Then I want to go back to
Michael Cousin.
number 70 as well. Has there been contact made with them?
Sorry?
Item number 70, which was,
1926 Caleb Ave?
yes.
Yeah, I can get you updates on the contact we've made.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What did you want?
It's number 70. I just wanted to check.
You want to hold 70?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just for quick reference, we had no system in place for probably, 20 years for the housing. So this is the first time in over 20 years that we've actually had something in place to be able to go after these houses. So that's why you're gonna see those long-term things on there, because nobody ever went after them. We,
And as President Hudson knows, a lot of times these requests are from the neighborhood too, and people.
Absolutely.
so we finally have a system in place.
Thank you for both. The other question I have, if you don't mind,
Oh, no, you're fine.
I had a call from a couple of constituents. What is the process, I think, with the land trust, with them getting into the land trust so they can get back on their tax? Is there certain procedures that some people you will deny? Let a couple people call me.
Vicki Voss, Deputy Commissioner of Finance. Really loud. Yeah, people can apply for the tax trust at any time, even after they get the 30-day letter. We turn around requests within 1 to 2 business days, provide information to the homeowner regarding the amount of money that they would need to come up with. We do require a 10% down and a first month's payment. They need to pay
Can I say that, 10% down what?
10% down of the delinquent. So this is, a tax trust is a loan basically that will finance 90% of the delinquent balance, which is anything that is 2 years or older. Anything that is a current year taxes would have to be paid, and their water bill, parking tickets, things of that nature. Anything they owe the city would have to be paid. So we're, constantly in contact with people. I handle the tax trust directly, and, if you have anybody that wants to apply for one, have them give me a call.
So if it was a business, can they get into it or no?
Unfortunately, with the current rules of the tax trust process, they only allow individuals, so it must be held not in the name of a company, it must be a person.
Can I ask a quick question, please, before we go? Because we had talked about this before, right? And I'm seeing, we know that the ARPA funding is coming through and it's helping everybody, thank God for that. But at this point, with the tax trust, we had talked about the interest rate and how high it was. And we talked about maybe looking at that a little differently. And is there something that we can do to look at that differently, to kind of sort of give these people some kind of heads up to they can be able to get into the tax trust?
I know that law is currently had reviewed there's a number of changes that we're looking to make. We're looking to make it, the proposed changes include a lower interest rate. They include not having to make the 10% down payment. They include possibly expanding it to allowing companies and churches, because we've seen with COVID, a lot of churches are in trouble. So there's been a lot of proposals. We are winding up our talks and our review with legal. So I'm hopeful that that's going to be all a pretty new package fairly soon.
Okay, because that'll be a bigger bang for our buck, because if you give me a lower interest rate, then I can come in and pay you at a lower going in price, then guess what? I'm probably more liable to pay you off and get done with
100%,
it.
absolutely true.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can I ask you one more question? And you might not know it, and if you don't, it's okay. How many people applied for the land trust, tax trust? How many people actually completed? Like, if 100 people applied, was it like 20% complete?
That's a really good question. I try to work with people, and I have some people that apply and they come in, they pay their money, and they're done, in a couple of weeks. There's some people that I've been working with since January that are, trying to catch up and pay their current taxes and, get to the point where they can close. I'm gonna guess, if I had to guess, it's probably like a 40-50% ratio. It's hard to get people to close because right now there's still a lot of money to come up with, even though, and people are hurting. We see a lot of landlords, we see a lot of, like I said, churches, and of course, anybody, you and me, all kinds of people.
Thank you.
All righty. Oh.
Michelle Spansky, Deputy Commissioner of Neighborhood Development. I did just want to clarify one thing to some of the earlier questions about the discrepancies between the years. Usually when you're seeing the really, really big spans for like 42 years, those are all, for the most part, vacant lots. Sometimes it could be an exception, like if a property was in a tax trust or something, they defaulted and then now they're going back into the process. With the vacant lots, we've been pretty intentional about not putting those through the foreclosure pipeline unless we have a plan or a purpose for it. We have about 5,000 or so vacant lots total citywide. We are going to be putting together a kind of comprehensive strategic plan for how we move all of that through the disposition process once we complete the housing market study. So eventually you'll be seeing more of those, but I just wanted to kind of clear up any confusion with that. It's not that we haven't had a process, it's just that we've been trying to focus on the properties that kind of were causing the biggest blighting influences and make sure we were dealing with all the structures first. So, thank you.
All righty, with that, I need a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye. All righty, meeting adjourned.